Welcome to the BEI podcast. I'm Lutricia. You know, there's been a lot of talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Instead, we're going to focus on BEI, bigotry, exclusion, and ignorance. Our country has been plagued with it since it was founded. Qualified citizens are denied leadership, silenced, labeled incompetent, all because of who they are or what they look like. We ask, what does it mean to be qualified, and who decides? How do we determine who gets to participate in the American experiment? Can we live up to the principles of our democracy, liberty, and justice for all? Let's just start with your talking about you.
Okay. I sent you a little bio,
Yes.
and I've been an educator for 50 years, for over 50 years. And as an educator, I've gone up the ranks from teacher to director of student teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And in each one of those phases in education, I've experienced exactly what you wrote about. Exactly that. Bigotry, exclusion, and ignorance from administrators and people all around me. So then there has not been a phase in my education career when I was not exposed to that or experienced that.
And you've done work with young people. Can you say from your own experience and observation, how does bigotry, exclusion, and ignorance, that kind of discriminatory practice, affect your clients, the young people you see, affect you? What do you see are the sort of like the emotional, mental, psychological, even educational consequences of functioning in the system that is based on bigotry, exclusion, and ignorance?
One of the things I've worked hard on is educating young children from I've been a kindergarten teacher and I taught grad school. And so educating those young people about what it is, they almost are oblivious to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not see the ramifications that are happening to them as I see them from my perspective of being a gray haired lady.
Mm-hmm.
They've not experienced it, but the impact is tremendous. It's systemic.
Right.
And so with the young children, the impact is we've got middle school and high school children that can't read and don't care to learn to read anymore. They really don't care about that. And then we've got generations of children who I've worked with in college who don't even know what you're talking about when you talk about bigotry and exclusion, who even think that maybe as an educator I harp too much on it
Mm-hmm.
because I see it that I might expect it. So oh my goodness, the ramifications are huge.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that bigotry, exclusion, and ignorance is so much a part of our landscape. It's like the air we breathe. That those of us who are experiencing it or victimized by it don't even tend not to even recognize it. And that there are subtle things that happen because you don't, I mean, people can make choices and decisions about who is qualified. And they make those decisions subtly. It's not like it's a big conversation. And if you're operating from a place of bigotry, then you can affect somebody's life and they wouldn't even know it. That you can deny them a privilege, a possibility, opportunity, and they wouldn't even know it. Which is why which is why I think we had this diversity inclusion process, because we recognize systemically that there's something going on that is systemically excluding people,
Mhm.
and that diversity, equity, and inclusion was a way to address that.
Yes.
So when you see the landscape now, and I'm just curious about your take on what you're seeing and what your ideas are about how we address the current situation that we're in, the current political, social, economic situation that we're in. How do you see that playing out in your work now? And what ideas or what do you do to address the real systemic problems that we're facing? And I know that you and I, the reason we know each other is because of the work of 18 Springs and your commitment to that. And I know that's one thing that you do. But are there other things that you do as well?
When I was younger, I'm a civil rights baby. I was born in the early 50s. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was younger, everybody knows when Martin Luther King was assassinated, I marched then. I was 14, 15 years old,
Yeah.
but I could march. I'm 72 now and I can't march now. So I have to give my contributions in other ways. And as an educator, I wrote a course because I realized that college students had really nothing invested in my concern about bigotry or exclusion. They really hadn't experienced it yet, or they thought they hadn't experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So the course got vetted across the university, which was an HBCU, a historically black college, historically black university. But then I also got it vetted at a predominantly white institution. And so the students answered two questions. Who am I first? Because our students who are 18 and 19 years old haven't even thought about who they are. So who am I? And who am I as a social justice being? Now, I could use social justice in a predominantly white institution because that doesn't denote any kind of militancy, as I was called a militant when I had that big old afro. But social justice was a kinder, more inclusive word. It was different from saying, who am I as a person who is experiencing bigotry? Or who am I as a person that excludes other people? If that was the title, I wouldn't have got it vetted. And I know that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I put social justice as a all-inclusive title, which included more than black and white issues,
Mm-hmm.
more than race issues. You're talking about sexual orientation, ableism, disability. You're
Social
talking about
status.
poor and rich, poverty. You're talking about so many other different things that it was palatable to that systemic institution.
Mm-hmm.
And so the students have to do four big assignments. The first one is they have to write about who they are. And I give them questions. What were your experiences in your high school? What was the racial makeup? What's the racial makeup of your community? What's the racial makeup of your family? All of those kinds of questions. When I give them those questions, they start to dig deep into who they are. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first paper. Then the second paper, you talk about bigotry and exclusion. I teach 4 words in my course. What is discrimination? What is prejudice? What is racism? And what is oppression? Because they go from micro to the macro. And students who don't know what I'm talking about, who cut off if I say bigotry, can handle that vocabulary. And that's all I teach. What does that mean? But in the second paper, they have to write about what they have experienced in discrimination. Where have they been discriminated against? Where something prejudice happened to them? Where something oppressive happened to them? And most of them have never experienced that. So then they have to say that and why.
Yeah.
Then the
You.
third paper, they look at where their prejudice is and they go and have an experience that is out of their comfort zone with their prejudice.
Yeah.
And then the last paper, we pull it all together. That's my contribution because during that time, and I explained it really easily, but when you're in a class and you're talking about social justice and discrimination and prejudice, emotions get in there.
Yes.
And the students feel some of that. because we do current events. So
Yeah.
I have had a student in my class where we're talking about police brutality, and her father's a policeman. So then that becomes a lot of emotion in that.
Yes.
But that's my now contribution besides 18 Springs. I teach that course.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you about this because there's some thought that maybe we should not use social justice, we should use white supremacy. Now, that's a powerful expression. But I think the people that I've been talking to, and we've been having this conversations, believe that in the current situation, given what's going on, and the out loud bigotry and the out loud ignorance and exclusion, that we need to name it for what it is, which is an expression of white supremacy. And like you say, that then ups the ante about what this discussion will be and how we will handle the pushback. And I was just wondering about your thinking on that.
Absolutely, we should call it as it is. Absolutely. And when I'm working in my course and the student, I want to see where they are because everybody's at a different place. And so when I introduce that, I know where they are and how to work with them. But I absolutely agree that we should call it the color that it is. That we
Yeah.
should say to make America great again means to make America white supremacy again. Absolutely. And when you're working with young students, they get that quickly. It comes out quickly.
They
Those
get what quickly? They get,
They get the white supremacists and they get white privilege. Some of them had never heard the word white privilege. And so, yes, absolutely, you have to call it what it is.
yeah.
There's a source we say, is everybody equal? Is everybody really equal? And for students to explore that, white supremacy comes out quickly. And you're exploring those social constructs. When we are looking at those social things like sexual orientation or rich or poor, those are identifiable by race, by sex, and by socioeconomic status. So
Yeah.
you can't escape that. You have to say that by race it's white, by gender it's male, and by socioeconomic status it's rich,
And by sexual orientation is straight.
it's straight, and
Yeah.
by religion is Christian, and by
Right.
by ability you better be smart.
Right. Yeah.
Those oppressors, oppression is macro. And by those things, they get it. Yes, you are right. Let's call it like it is.
Yeah. And so you've been noticing, and I'm just curious about your thinking about this. And what I was writing about was actually noticing how ICE agents are taking people off the street and invading communities and just destroying lives. And I'm curious about what you've seen and how you think about that and how you I think I know how you feel about it, but I just want your take on your understanding of what's happening to us in this country with regard to our notions of immigration and who belongs here, which is the piece I was writing, like who belongs here and who does not belong here.
Yes, yes. And how are you going to ever say who does not belong here when our country began and accepted everybody?
And actually, really, the people that may not belong here are the Europeans. I mean, actually, if
Yeah.
you think about whose land this was, and I think this is the part that frustrates me. If you think about the fact that Europeans came here from Jamestown, were welcomed by native folks, First Nation people,
Yes.
who taught them how to grow food, taught them how to survive in land in an area that they didn't know, and were then marched off their land. Their land was stolen from them. The cavalry came in and took native land and gave it to white people.
Yes.
And And particularly California is so interesting because I went back and I read, and because I like history, and I read about the Mexican American War and
Mm,
the Treaty of Hidalgo, where again Europeans took that Mexican land, 55% of their land, almost all of it in California, but it's also Nevada and Utah and several other places. So we're actually standing on stolen land.
mm,
We're standing on stolen land, and we're rounding up the people that the land belongs to and telling them they have to go,
they have to go.
and creating all of these rules for how they can be here.
Yes.
And I find it incredibly frustrating, but I also find it a little bit unnerving because if they can do that to immigrants, and I'm talking to people who are here legally. I mean, I know there are people that are undocumented, but we're talking about people that are here legally. If they can do that to them, they can do it to us.
Yes.
And so to me, this feels like an existential threat for every American, but particularly those that have black and brown skin.
And
And
for
I
people,
find that disturbing.
very disturbing. And for people of color, when you talk about the bigotry, the 50-year, 100-year plan that they have has been always to keep it with the white supremacy. It
Right.
always has been that.
Yeah.
And you are absolutely right. If it is going to go from one race to the next race to one culture to the next culture, if you noticed, there are things being said like federal government employees won't recognize this month. We've got Latino Heritage Month, and we've got,
Right.
well, the federal government employees won't. It's going to be every entity that
Yeah.
does not fit that oppressive mold, that oppressive circle that we talked about.
Well, I was also listening to the news and heard that the president has decided to rename all of these army bases,
Yes.
to rename them after Confederate leaders, all of
Yes.
our military bases.
Hmm.
He's now renaming them. So it feels to me like this is sort of a setup, and that they're kind of positioning themselves to really give this country as they see it back to white people. And
And
they, because
yeah,
there's a sense that somehow or other, which I don't quite understand, white people feel like something is being stolen, or a lot of white people. Not we, you and I know white people who don't have this attitude,
yes,
but for a
yes,
lot of white people, it's like they feel like something has been stolen from them. Like when you think about extending rights and privileges and respects and dignity to other people in this country who are not white, white people kind of feel offended by that, which I don't understand. I
and
mean, unless it's a big sense of entitlement, I
yes,
don't get why they would be so concerned about what happens to me and you, because nothing is being taken from them. Although I guess it feels like that, but I don't see that anything's being taken from the dominant culture.
and that's exactly how they feel. If I receive equally what they have,
That's right.
then that would mean they would have less. Not if I receive more. If
Right.
I receive equally what they have. I've experienced interviewing for positions, 5 different times, and some white male unqualified person gets it every time. Because if I get it, then they don't get it kind of mentality. And you're right about
Yeah.
that.
My daughter-in-law had an interesting experience, or I use the word interesting. Actually, it was really a kind of tragic experience. She is probably, when it comes to accounting, and that's a field I don't know about, and money management and accounting, she is probably one of the best I've seen. She's just really talented. She likes numbers, she likes that process. And so she was working at software company in research train RTP, and she was doing really well. So they promoted her. She got a promotion, a big promotion. And she said that they were celebrating, that they'd had a little ceremony to celebrate her promotion, and people were there, the boss was there, and other coworkers were there, and they celebrated. It was like maybe 15 minutes of celebration. And she left wherever this room was. She left, and she left her ballpoint pen, which is one of her favorite pens,
Mm.
and she returned to get it. And she overheard the boss talking to the other people in the room who were white, and he said to them, of course, you're going to get a raise because no black person is going to make more than a white person. Now,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't get the raise because they deserved it or because they had
Mm-hmm.
proven, like she had, that she could do the work and she deserved the promotion. They got it in response to the fact that she got it. And that is an attitude I don't understand. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I guess it's a strong sense of entitlement. Nobody should have more than me, or
Mm-hmm.
they should not be above me. I'm curious about your take on that, because and it was for her. The sad thing about it, Fran, is that once that happens, and she was talking to me about it, and she and I looked at each other, and we both knew she can't work there any longer.
Not anymore. I was gonna
She's got
say
to
that.
go. She's got to find some place to go. And it was sort of sad and heartbreaking because it was a job she liked and she was doing really well at it. But once you understand that that's the attitude, then she just it couldn't in good conscience work there.
Yes, and she knew what they were going to do
Yeah,
from
yeah.
now on. That was just
From
only
going
one
forward,
instance.
yeah, I think she understood at that point that there would probably be no more promotions for her.
Yes.
That she had hit her ceiling, and that's kind of what he said. I mean, that's kind of what they were saying. She had hit her ceiling. And this is a brilliant young woman who now she did ultimately leave this company, and now she runs her own agency, which maybe, on the back end, maybe that was a good thing. Maybe that was the universe telling her that you
Hmm.
can be better, you can go better. But for her, it was a devastating experience. And I think we face that. I think people of color, particularly black people, have done what I think these young people are doing, which is we are trying to live in a society and make it and live and thrive in a society that is not going to help us, not going to support us, and in fact is going to be a barrier. But I think, you tell me about this in your own life experience now and in mine. You and I both grew up and were part of the civil rights movement. You were 14, I was about the same age when I started. But at some point, and I'm curious about this in your own experience of you accept that this is the terrain you're working in. This is it. This is America, and you kind of got to figure out in your own way how to make it. And there's a certain level of maturity that, at least I recognize it in myself, where I decide, okay, this is what it is. This is the territory in which I have to work, but it's also I don't have to accept it. I can work every day, even if I'm in this environment. I can work every day to interrupt it. I think that's the nature of your work. I can do what I need to do to interrupt it, even though I have to live in it. And I'm wondering how you manage that in your own life.
Particularly in the beginning, I wanted to do everything I was told to do by even black and white. So some of my black colleagues, when I was teaching, said, "Okay, Fran, don't rock the boat. If they don't say good morning to you, just go on. Don't keep questions." Some of my black teachers wanted me not to rock the boat, not to say anything. But I think in the beginning, working in the system, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
working in the system was where I learned what the rules were.
Yeah.
And a long time ago, when we were coming up, we were asking for them to tell us what the rules were, asking white people to tell us what the rules were. We'll work within those ramifications. It was just
Right.
like good old Massa said. I want this dish here, and you put the dish there. We could do exactly what you told us to do. And all we wanted to know were what the rules were. So I learned what the rules were. That's how I survived, Lutricia.
Right.
I learned what the rules are. Now, there were some of my black cousins and sisters and brothers, they weren't going to play the game. They weren't going to learn the rules.
Uh-huh.
They were going to be combative about it and not at all be in that. But I said, I'm going to learn what the rules are. And then I advise any child, any adult, to have multiple streams of income. Because once you learn the rules and you're around them enough, just like your niece did, and you learn the rules, then you take those rules and you start your own business just like you have.
Mm-hmm.
Start your own business. And then you can impact because you're outside of that system and you
Right.
know some of what the rules are. What I'm concerned about, what my frustration is now, is man, I don't know what the rules are anymore.
Right.
They're
Yes,
changing the game every day.
that's right.
You can't get out and be in the system and learn the rules because they're just changing the rules. This big, beautiful bill of whatever that is, all of this bigotry and exclusion is included in there. And all we're not even talking about that.
Right.
We're
Right.
not even talking about it's happening in North Carolina right now.
I know. I know.
And it's very out in the open, but we're not talking about what's in the beautiful bill. And so the rules are changing.
Yeah, and because the rules are changing, and you're right. I mean, I could never work. I mean, I worked in this. I've worked at Guilford College. I've been a college professor. I've worked in state government. I was, director of the social work director at one of the largest criminal facilities in South Carolina. So I've been a part of the system.
Mhm.
But what has happened to me and what I came to understand is that my tolerance for I can learn the rules, I know the rules, and I can play by the rules, I can succeed, and I can advance. But there's a part of me, and I think it's a part that I learned in the civil rights movement, that is deeply committed to fairness and justice. And when I see that not happening, I feel like I need to speak to it no matter where I am, in the
Mhm.
system or out of it. And so what I learned and what I decided about myself is that you're going to be consistently at odds in a system that is allergic to you. You're allergic to it and it's allergic to you.
Yes.
So your best bet is to do what I think both of us did, which is to find your own practice, out your own way of surviving financially, emotionally, spiritually.
Mhm.
And the beauty of knowing the rules, even though I agree with you right now, we don't know what the rules are. But the beauty of knowing them when I was in the system was you know how to override them. You know how to interrupt them. You know how to be subtle about what you're doing. Right now, we're facing a situation, friend, where not only do we not know the rules, but it looks like all of the advantages are on the other side.
Mhm.
We don't have any representation in the government.
Mhm.
That's completely taken over by what I call white supremacists.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, and because of the work we're doing at 18 Springs, I think we have to figure out a way to address this. And I don't know that we have yet.
Mhm.
I still think in many ways we're flat footed. Now, I hope we don't stay flat footed, but I think right now we're trying to figure out an answer to this and we don't
Yes.
quite know it.
Yes.
I was thinking the other day, just because of what you said, you and I close in age, I'm going to have to get my chair. And like you, I had thought I had given up on marching and all of this. But I thought the other day, you know what? You're going to have to get your chair, a comfortable chair. You have to take your walking stick and you're going to have to demonstrate. You're going
Mhm.
to have to be in one of these. Like I'm going to the one Saturday in Durham. Are you going to the one?
No,
There's what is it? No King's March
no King's March.
rally. I'm doing the one in Durham. And I am not, I do not. want to go. I don't want to march. But I think we need bodies out there right now.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we have is our power as a people. That's what we got. We
Oh,
got
I
to,
agree to that.
yeah, and we got to hit the streets. We got to not only contact our representatives, but I think there has to be a visible demonstration to the white supremacists that there are more of us than there are of them, and
Yes.
that we're not going to accept it.
And we're not going to accept it.
Yeah.
And that's a part of their fear, too, that there are more of us, because that's why they're sending so many people back home who are documented and undocumented, because they're people of color. In Forsyth County now, people of color are a higher percentage than white Americans.
Yes. That's the thing that I think is the most frightening to them. That
Yes, that's a fear to
they're not, in a very short while, the white people will not be the majority in this country, and I think that terrifies them. But I also think I have asked myself, I want to again, I want to check this out with you. If white males are so smart and sharp and strong and intelligent and competent, why would they be concerned about anything that we did?
them.
Why would our willingness to thrive and grow and be talented, be skilled people, why is that a threat to white men if they're all that great? If they're that great, why doesn't it frighten them that you and I are educated, that you and I are competent?
And because they know, and I'm working with these after school programs in inner city, in food deserts and drug infested communities. And we have an after school program from kindergarten through eighth grade. And these young Black boys that I'm working with are brilliant. They are brilliant. That's what they fear.
That's what they're scared of. Yeah,
Now, they may not can read a chapter book, but they can think, and they can think through some things. They can strategize like my daddy and my godfather did during Martin Luther King's time. They sat in a room and they
yeah,
planned what they were
that's
going to do.
right. I remember it. I remember
They
it.
had strategies.
Right,
And that's what they fear, because we can think. Whether we can read or not, we have survived some stuff.
right. And I think when you think about how we think about qualifications and how do we think about skill sets, the thing that these young Black men can do that are absolutely brilliant, they don't accept because they have created rules that would make them unqualified.
Unqualified.
I remember asking this question once at a school board meeting, and they were talking about curriculum, and they were talking about the talented and gifted program, and
Mhm.
that there are so few kids of color in these talented and gifted programs. And I was curious about that because I was watching young men stand up and put put music, put a rap beat to poetry, create the poetry. They created the poetry and put the beat to it. Now I'm thinking this is incredible stuff.
Mhm.
So at this school board meeting, I asked, why isn't rap music and the ability to create music considered a talent, is considered artistically talented?
Mhm.
Because that should be something that's on the list.
Mhm.
It shouldn't just be the violinist
Right.
and the cellist or the poet. These guys do poetry and young women do poetry in a very different way,
Mhm.
but it demonstrates talent and
Mhm.
skill and intelligence and passion. And yet that ability is not considered artistically
Artistic.
talented and gifted. And I think that again, that's the function of bigotry and ignorance. It
Absolutely.
excludes people.
It excludes people.
Yeah, and so one of the things I'm thinking we're going to have to do, even though we don't quite know what the rules are now, but what I'm thinking about and the work we're doing at 18 Springs is that we need to create a new paradigm for how we think about talent and skill and ability, and we have to have some different kind of rules than the ones that the predominantly white men have created.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's our answer.
Mm.
I don't know how to make that happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how to promote that other than for the work that we're doing in 18 Springs and working in communities and getting people involved and helping them see their own relevance. But I think that's a strategy that we need to employ. We need to challenge, we need to question our assumptions about who is worthy in this country and who is
And
not.
who is not? Because I'm writing all these, you know, these ideas down because they're so important in trying all of them. The one thing that you said that resonates with me a lot is it's going to take more. It's going to take a lot of us,
Yes,
and a lot more of us than it ever has before.
right,
And I constantly want to challenge people when they're talking about the political climate or anything that's going on. I want to challenge them and ask them, well, what are you going to do about it?
right.
Because we've talked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have some fear
Yeah,
about
we do.
stepping out and doing something about it.
Well, you're an educator, so you know this, and you and I both. I have had the experience as an educator as well, but I don't know that in the system, in the educational system that is established in this country, that we teach kids stand up for themselves, to question authority. I don't think we teach kids to do that. And I think it makes us nervous because we're not taught and programmed to question, to challenge authority, to say this is not consistent with my beliefs. And when it comes to needing to stand up and say no, we don't we don't have a lot of practice in doing that. I
Yes.
mean, the gift of the civil rights movement for me at 14 was it gave me permission to resist
Mhm.
authority, to challenge authority. That I got to get in the face of a racist, to sit down at a lunch counter and say, I don't care what you think of me, I belong here.
Yeah, you belong here.
To develop that skill at 14, to me, that was a blessing. That was a gift. I mean, I took some
Mhm.
hits for it. I went to jail. I did that. But at the end of the day, what I learned from that experience has been very useful in my personal development
Mhm.
and recognizing myself as a human being. And I wonder, Fran, if we didn't teach our kids that well. We did the fighting, they didn't. They
Yeah.
grew up in a system where they cannot notice that this is going on.
I agree. We did not teach after that. A lot of my research was about white women who were teaching our children and our black males, and of course they're fighting, failing. But 80 some percent of the teachers that they have are white middle class females.
And they're white middle class rules that they are
And
expected to
they
follow.
have white middle class rules. So I wanted to know, they're going to our HBCU, they're going to where all the black people are. I wanted to know, did the HBCU culture get on them? They're going to
Mhm.
college there, they're getting education degrees from a HBCU. Did anything culturally about my black self, about my blackness, about my form of being a Negro or my African American, did any of that get on them? And the answer was no.
Mhm.
We
That's
are
true.
not doing a good job. We're fussing about it.
Right.
We're spending a lot of time not liking it and saying that we don't like it. But we don't actually teach those kinds of things anymore.
Right. And I wonder
You
about
know,
that because I mean, it's almost like after the civil rights movement, and we had some great victories in the civil rights movement. But I remember something that President Obama said, and he said, democracy is hard work.
yes.
It is advanced citizenship. It's not like you can sit down and go, okay. we did this, I'm a citizen now. You have to be on it all the time. And I think maybe we did not do that as well. But anyway, it's something that I question about the movement and what were the possibilities after the victories that we won. Because we knew, you and I both know that there were some very angry white people after Brown versus Board of Education, after the Equal Accommodations Act, that there were white people who were just committed to not having equality for Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wonder, is there something we could have done to deal with those people?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there was, but was there a process that we could have been involved in or engaged in about this country now that it has equality for everybody? What does it mean to us?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, maybe there was nothing to be done. Maybe these white people were just going to be angry folks. But now I think some conversations have to happen somewhere.
Yeah.
Some truth telling has to happen. I think we have to call it out. I think we have to call it what it is.
And then we call those courageous conversations.
Those courageous
Those
conversations.
courageous conversations.
And we have them with people who are willing to have them with us.
And 18 Springs has done some of that. That course that I was telling you about, the Social
Hmm.
Justice in Me course, there were 7 white females that took that course, and there are 5 of them that still meet with me 4
Hmm.
years later. And we have that's a strategy,
Yep.
because we have some courageous conversations.
Hmm.
And I'm able to turn around and say to that person, and she's able to handle it. That's your white privilege. You
Right.
can't understand that because you're privileged. You've never had that circumstance. You've never had the other side of that coin,
Right.
because your privilege was you had the shiny side.
Right.
You didn't
You're
have to go
blind, and because of your privilege, you're blind to everything
to
else.
everything else. You won't understand.
You simply can't see it.
Yeah, you won't understand.
That's why I am so thrilled that you're going to be doing this work at 18 Springs, because I think your wisdom and your educational, your training and your ability to teach is going to be central and core and significantly important to 18 Springs work going forward.
Thank you.
Because I think, our meeting, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
It was powerful.
There it was a powerful meeting, and we got to meet white women who were
Mhm.
interested in going down this road with us of looking at social justice, healing as a practice.
Mhm.
So I'm thrilled that you are going to be doing that work. And I want to thank you for this conversation and being willing to share what you know. I believe the reason we do this podcast is because we believe that we need to get voices like yours in social media, in the public square, that we need to be teaching and speaking and truth telling.
Mm.
We used to have this thing, my mom would tell me about a come to Jesus conversation.
Yes,
And
yes.
the come to Jesus conversation is when the truth needs to be told
Mm.
and you're probably not going to like it. And so I think your involvement with 18 Springs and and what you bring is going to move that organization in ways that it cannot imagine at this point. So
Well,
thank you.
I thank you, and I thank you for your wisdom and for your dedication, as well as for your internal knowing, your knowing what this work can do.
Yeah. And you know as well.
Yeah, and I thank you for that.
So thank you, and thank you for coming on. And I'm looking forward to our work going forward.
I'm
I'm
looking.
looking forward to you coming back. Things are going to unfold in this country. It's unfolding right now. So I'm going to ask you to come back and talk about what's happening to us as a society.
I would love to, and I'll be glad to. And
All right.
thank you so much
Thank you.
for being a leader in this.
You too.
All right.
Thank you for joining our podcast. Please visit our website, everybodyasourOwn.org, and join our monthly Here, HEAR, and Now conversations. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe to us. It is deeply appreciated. See you next time.